What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. As you guys can see by the title, and I'm sure you've heard the news all over Twitter, all over NHL.com, and probably in your subscription box with the other NHL YouTubers, Jason Botterill, the GM, or now I should say former GM of the Buffalo Sabres, has been fired. Now, we've been hearing over the past couple weeks that there's been some bad blood. I made a video about it. Jack Eichel was kind of calling out the team and the management and just about everything over the past couple years. And I mean, and I'm on his side in terms of you can't really blame him. And action was taken. The Buffalo Sabres are making decisions. They're making progress in order to try to make this team better. And it looks like this might be the best step for them. Now, basically, some of the reasoning behind Botterill, and by the way, if I'm looking over, I've got information everywhere all over the screen so I could see it. But Botterill was the GM for 3 seasons, 3 losing seasons, and Buffalo hasn't made the playoffs since 2011. This is not good for this team. Jack Eichel was supposed to be the piece that kind of was the centerpiece. Okay, now we can build around him. And they've tried a few times. They brought in some players, but they haven't been able to fully accomplish what they've wanted to. Now, NHL.com posted an article basically saying Botterill was fired, of course, on Tuesday and is replaced by Kevin Adams. Hopefully I'm saying his name correctly. It's spelled differently with a Y instead of an I. And one of the quotes here says, "This morning we informed Jason Botterill that he won't be the GM of the Sabres." And I believe this was Kim Pegula, Terry and Kim Pegula in a statement. So they mentioned to him that he would no longer be the GM. The decision was made after many candid discussions with Jason during a full review of hockey operations. They said that there was philosophical differences regarding how to best put themselves in position to compete for a Stanley Cup, so they decided to make the change. Now, this is going to be a little odd for some people because the Sabres announced May 26th that Botterill would return for his 4th season as GM after finishing 13th in the Eastern Conference, and they were 30. Their record was 30, 31, and 8. And in 88, 115, and 30 since Botterill was hired May 11th, 2017. So that was a little odd, but the whole preface behind this is that there's been a lot of rumors going around on whether or not Jack Eichel could want out of Buffalo, or if the Buffalo Sabres were like, okay, you know what, we're blowing this up again. Let's get a bunch of futures for Jack Eichel, which to me would seem really stupid, but you never know, because if there's philosophical differences between the GM and the owners, which I'm for one on the side of, okay, maybe owners shouldn't have too much of a say in terms of what's going on, but the GM isn't really doing that great of a job either. So hopefully they can bring in this, Kevin. Hopefully he's going to do his job. I believe it was Kevin Adams. Hopefully he'll be able to do a good job. But I know he was already part of the organization. I can't remember his exact position, but you're hoping that they're able to have a better communication and the same sort of ideas when it comes to the team. Because I have to be honest. First of all, I'm really hoping that the difference between the owners and the GM wasn't regarding Jack Eichel, because no matter what, no matter what your ideas are for this team, it shouldn't involve moving Jack Eichel. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me, because he's amazing. Like, Jack Eichel is one of the better young players in the league, and using really young loosely, because you were hoping to, in his first couple years in the NHL, and by the time his entry level deal was up, to have a really good team around him so we can go forward with really good years of Jack Eichel leading this team to being a competitive team and ultimately going for a Stanley Cup. But something I want to bring up here is some moves that were made by Jason Botterill. Now, I got this stuff from Cap Friendly, and I just brought up a few of them. You guys might not be able to see the names as clear, but the last guys that he picked up was Dominic Cahoon, which is not a bad pickup. They got Wayne Simmons, hoping that could be bring a little bit of fire to their bottom lines and a veteran presence. They were able to get Michael Frolik. Like, they were making moves. Like, they were attempting to do things here. And I think Botterill started to notice, okay, we really need to start to think a little bit outside of the box, because this team has a decent team. They also acquired VC. They moved a lot of pieces around, but it just ultimately didn't work. And one thing I also want to show you guys is points. And I think a lot of people don't talk about this enough, in terms of when you look at really good teams, you don't just have one guy who's scoring and then maybe like a secondary guy. And of course, Jeff Skinner was hurt for quite a lot this season. He was not able to play, but I mean, his production kind of fell off a little bit because he did play in 59 games and only had 23 points. And you know, his previous season in Buffalo was really good, and they just signed him to a $9 million contract. So you're hoping that he can pick up his play next season and add to this team. But Buffalo made a lot of moves to bring in guys, but they didn't bring in guys that are able to be a secondary piece to Jack Eichel. So Sam Reinhart had a pretty good year, 50 points in 69 games played, but Jack Eichel had 78 points in 68 games played, almost a 40-goal season. He definitely would have had that if play continued and they were able to finish the season. But the drop-off from 78 to 50, and then guys in the 40-point range and 30, and then even in the 20-point range, you want a guy that can at least get you 65 to 70 points. You know, it doesn't grow on trees, but when you have a player like Jack Eichel, you should go out there and try to acquire somebody that can do that. Like, Dahlin's a defenseman, and he had 40 points. He's going to be a stud. He already is one, but going forward, he's going to be even more of a stud. But you want to get guys that can complement Jack Eichel. You want a guy that can get you 65 points, then another guy that can get you around 55, and then another guy that can get you, 48 to 50, and then you can start to have that drop off. When you have guys that are able to produce at the same, in almost in the same tier, or at least one guy, like, I hate to bring it up, and I know Sabres fans will hate this, but like, if you look at the Leafs, you've got Matthews, you've got Marner, you've got Tavares, you've got Nylander, all guys that put up huge numbers this year. When you look at Pittsburgh during their runs, you had Malkin, you had Letang, you had Crosby, you had Kessel, you had all these guys producing, Hornquist, Kunitz, whoever. You had a whole group of guys that were putting together points. You had guys that were able, to pick up the slack if somebody was out. Like, if Jack Eichel, let's say Jack Eichel gets hurt and doesn't play, and he only plays in like 30 or 40 games, this Buffalo team is garbage. I'm sorry, I have to say it, they're just garbage. So they need to get this man some help. I know there's talk of them trading Ristolainen. They've got their cap friendly page. If you go and look at it, they're gonna have a huge turnover. They're gonna have to acquire some pieces, and this might be a year where they go into the free agent market, and because of teams struggling, to be able to pay certain guys, or because of the pandemic, like, some players aren't going to be getting the big contracts that they expected. Buffalo needs to swoop in there and overpay for some people. And I think I mentioned this in another video, but they need to swoop in there and overpay some guys, because looking at this team right here, just some of the guys at their top scoring chart there, that's not going to do it. Like, that's not going to accomplish anything. So we'll have to see what happens. These are just my general thoughts on the Sabres and what they could do going forward. I think that they need to make a secondary move for Jack Eichel. They need to bring in a big piece. This change needed to happen, although I do believe that the biggest thing here is that why in the previous years that, you've had Jack Eichel here, why hasn't there ever been a big, humongous move to bring in some help? They brought in guys that are like flash in the pan, or overpay some guys that aren't exactly at the level that they need to be. So if you guys are new, make sure to subscribe. I would appreciate that. Join the squad. Hopefully get to 8,000 subscribers soon. I want to put out more content going forward. I just had a little bit of a mental break that I needed, because I film a lot of videos on other channels as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. And yeah, thank you guys. Leave your suggestions down below for Buffalo, and maybe video suggestions for me. So see you guys in the next one. Peace.